So today we're going to be packaging up a larger item and kind of showing you the process of how we do that and what that's going to look like. There's multiple different ways of doing it, but this is just the way that we find that works the best. So we're going to be shipping this early CJ5 grill. This is technically out of a 72, but we're going to be packaging this up and sending it out to our customer. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get some rough measurements of what this is going to be as far as our package. And so the way that I like to do that is I like to line it up with my workbench, just so that way you have a little bit easier point of reference for measuring and getting a box. We're basically going to want to make sure that it's at the edge, and that way it just gives us an easier way to actually measure what our overall box should be. We're getting rough estimates because as we construct the box, we're going to lay it all out on a cardboard, and we're going to mark it all up, make our bottom box, and then start laying everything in there. So we're going to roughly get a measurement here. We're going to be looking at about 42 inches. We're going to want to come to the very edge and then probably give about an inch to inch and a half, so that way you have room to put material on each side, so that way the item doesn't get damaged. Then we're going to do the same thing for the actual height here, and we're going to find the point that sticks out the furthest, which looks to be this latch, which is going to sit us right almost 22 inches, 22 and a half, somewhere in there. We're going to cushion it up to about 24, and we're going to make sure that this tab over here isn't any higher, and it's not. We're basically looking for what's going to have the biggest point on it, which is going to make the package the largest, and that's what we want to measure to. And now when we do our height, we can just go off the table and come up and see to the base down here, we're sitting at 7¼ inches. If we leave the headlights in the grill, that's going to bring us up a little bit more. The problem that I have with that is if we leave the headlights in, we can backfill around here with some styrofoam. We can take and build other things out and kind of build this all up. But if someone wanted to reuse these headlights and something happens where it gets dropped, or whoever is delivering it kicks it or whatever, it's a lot easier to break one of these headlights when you have cardboard resting on them. So what we're going to do is I'm going to end up popping these out. They're going to come out, and I think I can take and kind of package them up and hide them back in here. And if they're packaged up and hidden back in there, I think that's going to work out pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and get that torn down. I have my rough measurements, which are going to be 42 by 24, and I'm going to go to the top of here, which should be about 8 inches. And again, something else that I did prior to all this was I already did my measurements and kind of figured out what I was looking for. But I went to go see what a package was going to cost. If I left the headlights in the way they are and built the package up, it would raise it about 2 inches. That 2 inches would make a difference of about $16 in shipping costs. So if we just pull them out and tuck them in behind, one, it's going to be a safer delivery and less damage to these items, but also it's going to lower the cost down for the few minutes it should take to just pop them right off. Cool. We'll set them to the side over here, and then we will end up packaging them in a few minutes. Set that there. I'm going to get a little plastic bag so that way we don't lose anything. It's nice and taken care of. Okay, I'm going to set these over here, and we will flip this over and see what kind of room we're working with. So we have all this cavity space back here that we're going to be able to sneak these in and get them to fit nice down inside there. And then this metal here is going to actually help us to protect them even more. So if an impact comes, metal is going to be a lot stronger than glass is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and bring over my paper, because I like to wrap everything in paper. Just to keep it from getting scratched up. One, and we'll do the other one. And I'm thinking I'm going to make a little bed of bubble wrap for each one of these. So we're just going to grab some bubble wrap and start kind of constructing a little a little bed for these. We're gonna tuck that in there like that. Take one headlight. Maybe and kind of tuck the upper portion up like that. And then we're just gonna take a little bit more fill and pack that right up and in there so it's nice and tight. Take our little headlight bezel screws, throw them in here as well. Those will be nice and protected. Okay. Take a little bit of tape. We'll end up putting some more fill. When we set this back inside the box, we'll put some more fill in here. So that's gonna be that. So that's what it's gonna look like sitting inside of our box as we build it out. So I'm gonna set this to the side so that way we can start constructing our box. So we're gonna grab our big sheet of cardboard and we're gonna start laying this all out. So I'm gonna grab a T-square and a Sharpie. We're gonna do 42 by 24 by 8. So when we build our box, the way that we're gonna imagine it is, right how the grill was sitting is how we're gonna build the box. So we're gonna have our flat, 42 is gonna be here, 24 here, and then we're gonna build the sides up and then they're gonna kind of come over and we're gonna take the extra back end and flip that over the top. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create in our box, so the top of the box is gonna have a little wide 2-inch flange that the lid's gonna sit on. So we gotta measure that out first. We're gonna measure that out at 2 inches and then our depth of the box, of how high we're gonna go, that's gonna be 8 inches. So we're gonna measure out 8 inches. Actually, I think I'm gonna cheat that to 9 inches because I think 8 inches was the top of my grill. So I wanna give a little bit of room for cushion for styrofoam or whatever. So I'm gonna cheat that up to 9 inches. Okay, so that's gonna be our sidewall and our little flange. So now we can do our 42-inch section. So we'll take that and line that up with our last mark to do 42 inches over here. And then we're gonna do the same thing and we're gonna repeat the 9 inches over here. And then again, we're gonna have our lid, which is gonna come back over the top. And I think if I have this measured out right, we're gonna be slightly short on the top and we'll just backfill that with some other pieces of cardboard and it's gonna look okay. So this side, what I do is I wanna center line this. So I know that this is a 4x8 sheet, so we're gonna just make a mark at 2 foot. And then we know we need a 2-foot box. So we're just gonna center line 1 foot, make a mark. So that way we have a 2-foot wide thing. And then we're gonna again do our 9 inches right here. And that's gonna leave us with 3 inches on each side as the topper, which will work out pretty well. And yeah. So we're gonna get all that laid off and then we're gonna come through and we're gonna start making our lines. Okay, so we got our one side set off. Now we're gonna come down over here and do the same. And so if we're looking at this, you can kind of see now, this is where our grill's gonna sit. These are gonna be our sidewalls as they fold up. And this is gonna be a little flange that tips in. Again, sidewall, flange that sticks in. So what that means is we don't need this box, we don't need this box, or this box. We will probably end up keeping this box here though, because what this is gonna allow us to do is it's gonna allow us to reinforce this corner right here. So we'll probably end up keeping this one and then just getting rid of these outer ones out here. Same thing over here. We'll get rid of this guy and this guy and this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Okay, so now all of our remaining lines we're gonna score through. So what I mean by that is we're gonna basically stick the blade in just a little bit and then about a quarter to halfway through, and that's gonna allow us to kind of break the cardboard without actually breaking the paper and kind of making it stronger. So I just stick it in slightly and it just kind of gives us a point of reference. And we're gonna do every line. So now that they're scored, we can kind of just bend it back, and that's going to be able to be bent back into place. These wings here, we're going to have to cut one of these lines. It doesn't matter which one it is, whether you want to cut this line or this line. But basically, what this is going to do is allow us to fold it up and then make that 90 degree a little bit better. And so it depends on where you want this extra piece at. If you want it to be on this section, right here, you're going to want to leave it here and cut this line. If you want the extra panel to be here, then you cut here and leave it attached here. I kind of want it on the end because it's got that extra tab on the grill. And so I'm going to go ahead and just fully cut down through this side. Get that cut down through there so that way that'll fold up. We're just going to go through and break all these joints. Grab your tape. And then this is where we can start folding the box together. And so I go through and I just kind of temporarily throw a piece up on there to kind of hold it in place. But this is what I'm talking about. So we're going to be able to have this here, and then this is going to be our landing flange. And then our lid's going to come up and over. So I'm going to go ahead and get this kind of taped up. So the reason I only do 2 pieces of tape or 1 piece of tape is just for the fact that if I mess up, I can recut the box or I can redo something and it'll be kind of nice. So there's our box. And we can see that that grill fits pretty nice down in there, and that gives us plenty of room to actually package around here. So we're gonna move on with what we got going. So we're gonna go ahead and get a piece of styrofoam cut for down in here. About 41 inches by 24. This is a piece of scrap. That's gonna work out pretty well down in there, and that'll add some nice cushioning. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab some bubble wrap, and we will kind of create a nice pillow for the internal stuff to kind of sit on. Like that. So now everything is nice, protected, good to go. So I'm going to come back through and take some of this leftover styrofoam that I had from another area and cut it down and kind of backfill in there. All the points that are like more susceptible to like going through. So this bottom point here on the grill, there's this little side point over here, which I want a little bit bigger piece. So we're nice and tight there. Nice down there. I probably want to put some more filler up top there because that's another sharp piece. It's a little too tall. Just gonna cut that down break that up and out of our. So now I'm going to take all this dead space and kind of just fill it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one more sheet of styrofoam and make that for the top. Every package that we send out, we put a little Bible tract in there, share the gospel. Take our last sheet of styrofoam, push that down, and then we can start folding over our edge. Now we're going to fold our top up and over. Nice and solid. We can take one of our offcuts here and just cut it down. Cover that side up. So now what we got to do is just finish taping it up. We're going to tape all the seams around, and yeah. I like to overlap a lot of my tape. I don't know if I can do that in that position. So that way everything stays nice and on there. I think that's gonna make it. So now, we just gotta get our final measurements and then go get our label. 43 by 24 by 9. Take it over to the scale. 36 pounds. All right, let's get our label. We're gonna put that right up on top. Anything that is more expensive, I like to put some fragile stickers on. There you have it.